throughout the journey of like finding a partner you want to be with and trying to find love and everything, you really just have to realize that it's very personal experience. It's like you are reflecting onto all of your relationships. So the most important thing out of all of this is to have confidence and the self-love, not necessarily first, because I think it can be formed in a relationship, but you need to have an understanding of like yourself and what your needs are and what your boundaries are before you can have a thriving relationship. Because if you're insecure, if you're going into love thinking that you're incomplete and you need someone else to complete you, you're going to be the type of person that's always chasing love, or you're going to be the type of person that always feels unfulfilled or completely inauthentic in the whole experience. I just feel like it's a self-reflective experience, love, the entire journey of it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobby. Today, sitting across from me, Kirstie Taylor. How are you?
What's up? I'm great. I'm doing awesome.
You ready to have a great conversation today?
I'm ready for the awesome conversation.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
When's the last time you've been on a podcast?
Oh gosh. Like maybe 2 days ago.
Okay.
You mean a podcast in general?
Yeah, like I don't know, just I guess I feel like, maybe you're on like a press
honestly,
run right now with the book.
For the past 2 months, I've probably done 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just cranking through them.
Cranking through.
All right, well, I'm here to make this the best podcast. Hopefully.
100%.
And you never have to tell anybody that it was the best podcast, but internally I want you to be like, that was the best podcast experience
100%.
I have ever had. Super excited to have you here today. We're going to dive into a lot. It's going to be fantastic. And yeah, it's going to be great.
Oh, for sure.
So what I wish I knew about love. It's coming out in February. This podcast will drop, I believe, February 15th. I don't know if there's a certain date that the book will come out.
We don't have a specific release date yet, but it'll either be end of February last week or first week of March.
Cool. No matter what, the pre-order will be in the description.
It is out and available.
So make sure, as you guys are listening to this, you go pre-order that book. But what is something that you know about love today that you would want to tell your younger self?
Oh, geez. I mean, my entire book. So, oh, God. Man, one thing that I would tell my younger self about love. I'm going to say...
Can you give context? How old are you, by the way?
I'm actually turning 29 on Thursday. January 28th.
29 years young.
People.
29 years young. Crushing. Just getting started. Just so give some context for people that are actually listening, I think it's important.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, even up to until, 26 years old. I think the biggest thing is that, throughout the journey of like finding a partner you want to be with and trying to find love and everything, you really just have to realize that it's very personal experience. It's like you are reflecting onto all of your relationships. So the most important thing out of all of this is to have confidence and the self-love, not necessarily first, because I think it can be formed in a relationship, but you need to have an understanding of like yourself and what your needs are and what your boundaries are before you can have a thriving relationship. Because if you're insecure, if you're going into love thinking that you're incomplete and you need someone else to complete you, you're going to be the type of person that's always chasing love, or you're going to be the type of person that always feels unfulfilled or just completely inauthentic in the whole experience. I just feel like it's a self-reflective experience, love, the entire journey of it all.
And do you feel like most people are always seeking it, or do you feel like, because that's the other thing, I forget what you just said, but it was like, do we want to seek love, or should we be waiting for the love to almost seek us at the same time? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's a balance of, you have to throw yourself out there, you have to shoot your shot and be willing to try, but at the same time there's like that balance of, you don't want to be too aggressive, and you also should be worrying about who you are before you worry about somebody else pulling somebody else into your life almost. Right.
I mean, I definitely think it's unique to every single person. If you are the type that is more, I'm going to focus on me and let love come to me, do that. If you're more of the person that's like, I like to be active in my love life, do that. But at the same time, no matter who you are, also be doing all the things that make you happy by yourself. Like, still have a solid group of friends, still like pursue your goals, still do everything that makes you feel proud of your life outside of a relationship. But if you are the type of person that's like, you know what, I do like to be proactive, and I do like to be on dating apps, and I do like to show people that I have feelings and I do have needs, like, I think that's fine. Like, don't try to act like someone you're not, but don't feel like you need someone to complete you.
Yeah.
And I feel like by having a life outside of dating and like focusing on yourself and being proud of your own life will do that. Yeah.
How does one step into this world? Because it's so interesting to me. And you know, we have a previous relationship from when we did your podcast back in 2019, which I was like just crazy thinking about like where I was in 2019. I'm sure you can think back to who you were and just how much growth for both of us.
Yes.
But that was when I was hosting Purpose in the Youth, my old podcast. And that's when I was interviewing just a lot of different people that had found that thing, whether it was blogging, whether it was fitness coach, whether it was videographers. Like it took these people some time to find the thing that made them fulfilled and passionate. But it was like once they found it, they just like went all in. So how did you find yourself kind of becoming the voice of like the person to talk about relationships, to have the hard conversations, to be willing to put your voice in pen and paper and share it with the world? Like that in and of itself takes so much confidence. And I've learned that like I always tip my hat to anybody that's in the arena of sharing their opinion and sharing their voice.
Yeah.
Not easy to do.
Oh my God. It's not, like, with the internet and everything, and how like some people can be really horrible and mean. It's not an easy world. But the way that I got into it, and actually has to do with kind of how we met and everything. Essentially, I guess I found like what do they always say? Like the purpose in my pain. I used to be a serial monogamist. So I was in one relationship after the other for basically over a decade. And it wasn't until I had 2 really horrible relationships with men that I just wasn't really interested in. And I stopped, and I was like about to download Bumble again, like the day that I broke up with my boyfriend. And I was like, why? Or he broke up with me. We broke up with each other. Semantics. So I was about to download Bumble, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I jumping right back into a relationship when it's been making me so unhappy? Like, what is it in me that feels like I need to be in a relationship all the time? So I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. Like, I'm taking a break. And like, I know people do that all the time, taking a break to just be single for a little bit. But what I started to do was, I had a therapist friend at the time, and she recommended a few books to me, which was Codependent No More and Attached. And so I started to realize that there is this deep, rich world of adult relationship psychology and all these studies and all these theories. And there was everything that I felt was scientifically proven, was researched, had these like theories behind them and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. Like, all this is fascinating. So I started researching it more, blah, 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 blah. Around the same time, actually, when I started the podcast that you were on, a couple of friends kept being like, you should write on this new website called Medium. We've been hearing about it. Like, you should try it out. Like, give it a shot. And I was like, I've written before, but I've never really written any articles or anything. But I was like, you know what? Why not? So I've been doing all this research or this work on myself with my love life. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a story about something I've been through with an emotionally abusive ex in college, put it out onto Medium, and just, see what happens. And it actually did really well. It resonated with people, which was like my first experience of like putting myself out there and watching people respond in a way that's like, wow, this girl gets me. Because for me, that was the same thing that I experienced with like depression and an eating disorder I had when I was younger. When I read people's experiences, that helped the most actually with my healing journey. And so I kept writing about what I learned about attachment theory, codependency. And then I always mixed it in with my personal experiences, because that's just how I learned to write, I learned that I could be unique and have my own voice by writing my own personal experiences rather than just like writing what everyone else has already written out there. And it just kept going, and people were reading it, and I realized I could make a living from just writing on Medium. And once I did, I, left my nannying job at the time and went full force into it. And then, I started writing for like magazines like Cosmo and the Washington Post and stuff. And now I have a book. So
Wow.
yeah.
It's literally just listening to your gut and that one intuition of like, I want to share my thoughts with the world on Medium.
Totally.
And then you get a little taste of somebody actually cares or somebody resonated and you're like,
Yep.
wait, I got to do this more. And then you just consistently do it for an extended period of time and it just builds and builds and builds.
100%. I never really thought that I mean, like 4 years ago, if someone had been like, you're going to become a relationship and dating writer, all of this mess that you're going through with your love life, it's going to become why you're successful. I'd be like, what are you talking about? What? That sounds crazy.
So if I had asked you, you went to USC.
Yeah.
If I had asked you on day one of freshman year, what does the dream job look like by the time you graduate? What do you think you would have said?
Actually, I wasn't at SC freshman year, so at least say that. I did 1 year Florida State because I'm from Florida, and then I transferred to SC. But regardless, dang, what did I want to do my freshman year of college?
Any idea?
I didn't choose my major until junior year of college.
Okay. That's respect. That's most people.
And I chose communication because I was like, I still have no idea what I want to do, but at least communication's like applicable to a lot of things. Yeah, honestly, all I knew in freshman year of high school was that I wanted to get the hell out of Florida. That's
Didn't
all
like
I
it.
knew. I did not like it.
You didn't like, how do you say it? From Almonte Springs? Is that Almonte? Or is that? No? That's what the Facebook profile I think said.
Almonte. Altamont.
Oh, I just pronounced it completely incorrect. I thought it was like the wrong
Almonte.
Not surprised that I butchered it.
No,
I asked you how to pronounce your name. I should have asked how to pronounce your home.
Actually, we live somewhere near El Monte, right? El Monte is a place here in California, and there's like that's how you would normally pronounce it. I don't know. Altamont Springs. That's how you pronounce it.
Not surprised that I butchered
That
it.
was hilarious.
So you just want to get out of Florida, huh?
Yeah.
Why? Sunshine outside looking in, right? Somebody's listening. They're like, oh, it's sunshine year round.
Do people think that about Florida? I feel like
Okay,
everyone.
honestly, if I'm being 100%, why do people? I don't have a problem with Florida, but I feel like a lot of people that aren't from Florida have a problem with Florida.
I feel like everyone always says like the crazies are from Florida.
Why?
I don't know, but really, truly, I mean, there's a whole thing that's like type in your birthday and type in Florida man, and you'll get like the craziest news headline. We do have a lot of, I don't know. And for me, it was that I grew up in a suburb of Orlando. Orlando at the time, and I can't say that it is this way anymore because it's grown a lot and developed a lot. But at the time, Orlando is basically just, Disney World. And a lot of suburbs built around the industry, the tourism industry. And there was really nothing much to do but get into a lot of trouble in the suburb that I grew up in. And there was just a lot of closed-minded people. And I don't, maybe my parents raised me really well. I don't know. I never resonated with that, like, very conservative, like, I want to raise a family and have a white picket fence house and, always stay in how did you pronounce it? Almonte Springs. I just never, that never resonated with me. I was always like, I'm going to be that girl that's going to be living in New York City with like my adopted child, like being a badass. That's what I used to think in freshman year of college. Switch with LA and I don't have a child. So,
yeah. Well, I feel like not even just yours. I think growing up, no matter where you grow up, especially outside of a major city, I think majority people are closed-minded in the sense that they will grow up in that city and they will stick around. And I don't know if it's necessarily because of parents they were raised by, lessons that they were taught, but there's a fair majority of people that I went to high school with that have never left the city of Chicopee. And I don't know if I can say that it is because they're closed-minded, but I don't know if they've ever had the interest or the curiosity of like, wow, there's so much in this world, especially with our social media and our phones. You can just scroll on Instagram and you're seeing all different cities all over the world. It's
right.
like, I want to go check this place out. Like,
right. Yeah.
But I feel like there's always a small percentage of people from different from small suburbs and towns that they have that itch. They want to go to New York. They want to make a statement. They want to prove themselves like, I came from this place, but this is who I can become.
Yeah. And maybe that's it exactly. Like, I think I'm not saying that the people I grew up with that stayed there aren't happy. I think a lot of them are probably happy in their own way, but I think that's maybe it. Maybe it's us people with like something to prove, or like the trauma, and we're like, we got to get out of here and make something of ourselves. And then we, some people will chase that kind of mentality for a while and realize that doesn't make them happy either. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question though. So you had mentioned it earlier, and I didn't get a chance to dive into it. But were you at what point did this whole constantly bouncing from relationship to relationship happen? Was this like through high school through college? Was this starting in middle school? Mm-hmm. And how did that happen? Yeah.
How did that happen? That's a good question.
No, and I mean this is like great that this is the dynamic, because you're sitting across from somebody that I didn't really date ever growing
Mm-hmm.
up. I was single, definitely had my fair share of fun, but it wasn't that I was running away from relationships, but it just never got to that point. It would kind of be a fling and then we'd part ways. So you're sitting across from somebody that I never really dated growing up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting, and I'm intrigued because I know people too personally that literally it's like they bounce from relationship to relationship to relationship, and I'm just like, how is that possible? Like, how are you able to be single for like 2 weeks and you're already in another relationship? I'm like, respect. What am I doing wrong? Am I supposed to be in this many relationships? So I mean it in just like pure curiosity. Like, it's so interesting to me.
Totally. I think I hate to always generalize and be like, oh, everyone is this way. But I think a lot of it is that, so to answer your question, yes, it was basically from high school to when I was 26. And when I say high school, I mean like, I think I had my first boyfriend in sophomore year of high school. So it's been a while. Wait, what am I like? I just lost my train of thought.
Bouncing from like, how did that happen? Just
so I think that a lot of it is that people have some. Sorry, I just hit the mic now. I'm like, did I mess it up?
Don't you worry. You sound great.
They feel like they're not complete, or they feel like there's something in them. It can even be from like extending from like childhood. I mean, I talk about it all the time, but attachment theory and everything. You didn't have a great relationship with your parents, so you try to find intimacy through a relationship, and so some people will chase that. And I think that's what happened with me, is that I just always wanted to feel close with someone. And for me, I've always been the type of person who's for some reason only been able to be close, intimately close, or just like even friendship wise. Like, I've always been most close with the person that I'm dating. Friendships have been hard for me. I have like 2 best friends that I'm like really solidly close with. Those relationships are like, I've been best friends with them for like 8 years. So it took a while. But for some reason, it's like my boyfriends, I just be like, done. I can be close to that person. And so maybe it's because of that I was always searching for the next one and trying to find someone else to fill that void. And then when I took the break off dating, I was like, I don't need to have this. Like, I can fix it another way. But I don't want to say that's how it is for everyone that jumps around to relationships, because I do feel like it is a natural need for people to want to feel close to other people. It is natural to want to feel intimacy. And it's not bad if you're filling that need and finding people to be close with. I think the issue comes when you are looking for the wrong kind of people and you're not respecting your boundaries and your needs along the way. And that's basically the theme of my love life up until recently.
There's so much to unpack in there. How does one know when they should be dating and when they shouldn't be? I think that's a really important, like, especially people in their like 20s, when you're trying to figure out, like, after you graduate college, maybe you don't know what that thing is. So like for me, as an example, when I got out of college, I shut the red light. Dating, red light. I need to invest in myself. I need to figure out what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
I need to figure out what does this like longevity look like of my career. And I fortunately realized, like, me putting time, effort, and energy into somebody else is not going to allow me to figure out the direction I want to go. Mm-hmm. And so I pretty much red lighted dating for 3 to 4 years. And then just now I'm like starting to like throw myself out there. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
financially stable. I kind of know what I want to do with my life. Like, I can actually add this back into the mix. do you have advice for people on like when they should be seeking and when they shouldn't be?
Yeah. You know, I honestly think like the best advice is to trust your gut. I think so many people will think, and this obviously wasn't your case, but a lot of people think I need to be dating. That is, especially as a woman, I am a single woman, especially as a woman, like we're taught that love is like the most interesting thing about us, that like our relationships and getting married is one of the biggest successes we'll have in life. So if you think like, oh, I don't want to be dating, but I should be, red flag. If you're swiping and you're on and you get, you know, someone ghosts you and all of a sudden you feel like the biggest piece of crap in the world and like you were looking for validation from that person, red flag. That maybe you don't want to date. And I think that's awesome that you took a break from dating and like just focused on what you wanted to do. And if that's what someone wants to do 100%, I think it could also be done while you're dating. So I think what I really focus on teaching people is that to make sure that your needs and to make sure that you're not trying to find validation in dating and relationships is like the biggest thing. I think that's what a lot of people are just looking for love to like fix their insecurities, but they don't really realize it, or they're looking for the validation. And so actually like applicable ways to notice that, again, with if you feel like crap, whenever someone doesn't match with you, that's a red flag. Let's see, now I'm blanking. If you don't feel confident speaking up for your needs, if you feel like you put someone else before you all the time, or even complete flip side, if someone gets close to you and you feel like that's scary and you push everyone away, you're like, wow, I'm great, but every time someone gets close to me and like every time I date someone and they want something more, like that freaks me out and I push them away. Maybe it's time for a break. Maybe, let's figure out like what is that inside you that you feel like you need to push them away. And it's totally fine if that's that you want to focus on your career or something. I don't think people need to think that they always need to be dating.
Yeah, and it's definitely for sure it's a case by case scenario, like you're saying. Like it's not. Everybody nobody's gonna follow the same path as anybody else. I think it comes down to just being self-aware of where are you in your life, how do you feel about yourself. I think what the most important thing is like the validation aspect of like, are you happy with who you see in the mirror, or do you need somebody in order to feel happy about who you are?
Yeah. And
like self-love is like, I do a morning gratitude journal every day. And
I love that.
Love it. Game changer. Started it in like,
it's amazing.
In October, haven't missed a day since. And I will do that forever moving forward. Unless I run out of ink on my pen and then I'm screwed. But one section it's a 5-section gratitude journal. And one section that I love is the 4th section, and it's called priorities. And so I write out 3 priorities of like my life. What are my number 1 priorities? And 2 and 3 will change, but number 1 has been consistent since. And it's self-love and investing in myself. And so it's like, I know, and this is also because of previous experience when I was in college. Had a super interest. I was super all in on this girl. We had a thing for a bit. I was like, damn, I actually want to date this girl. It doesn't pan out that way. And I realized and I learned the hard way of like, you can't, there's only certain things, like you can throw yourself out there, but you can't control how somebody feels about you. It's like just part of life.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's always been my priorities. Like as long as I'm focusing on the self-love and I'm investing in myself, everything else will fall into place because I can't control that. My number 1 priority should be focusing on myself and then trusting that everything else will fall into place.
100%.
But I think it just depends, once again, case by case, and asking yourself, do you feel happy with where you are in your life? Do you feel fulfilled in your career, or if you're in school, or what are those actual priorities in your life? But like I said, it's definitely case by case.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say that, oh, you need to be single to work on yourself. You can 100% work on yourself in a relationship. But if you are already single, take a break. Like 100% take a break if you're not feeling like what you just said with like you're not happy where your life is. You don't feel that kind of self-confidence or self-love. Just focus on that, because that, like you said, self-love is like something you can carry with you throughout your life and will be beneficial to you forever.
Yeah.
You will show up as a better partner when you love yourself first and prioritize yourself first. You will show up as a better, what's the word I'm looking for? Sibling. That's not the word I'm looking for though. Child. You'll have a better relationship with your parents. You'll have a better relationship with your coworkers. You'll do better in your career. Like self-love and prioritizing your needs first should be everyone's number one everyone's number one in their gratitude journal.
Yeah. That should be number one for everyone's gratitude journal. How I'm sure people have hit you up, and I'm sure you maybe have written about this already, but the shift in dating because of the pandemic, right? I'm definitely somebody that's like, screw apps. I need to be in social settings. I'm so much more like, I want to bump shoulders and like, I'll shoot my shot all day, but like these apps, I've swiped around. I'm just like, this isn't working. It just doesn't work for me, I think.
Yeah.
But do you see pros and cons to switching to the online dating world versus kind of going out with like, I don't know who I'm going to meet tonight, but hopefully I'll meet somebody where you're more control with the app. So what do you see as like the pros and cons of obviously the dating world of online?
Yeah, I think that there's two. So the first one is that dating online, at least, you can kind of be more intentional. You can vet people better. Obviously you're seeing a lot more people than if you just went out to a bar one night. You can be, I guess, I don't know if picky has like a negative connotation to it, but in the sense it's pickier. You can be like, oh, I'm looking for someone who has the same values as me, and you look for something like that in their profile or through talking with them that you won't necessarily come across if you're at the bar, and not because like it's a bar setting, just because you're going to come across less people. So there's that, you can be more intentional. You can have certain needs and put them in your profile and see who matches with that. And then also with online dating, I kind of like that, like things have the dynamic has sort of changed with the pandemic, because sometimes people get really fatigued from dating. I mean, going out, getting ready, going out every night, paying for dinners and stuff, or splitting dinners or splitting whatever you do. It's exhausting.
Totally.
It's expensive.
Totally.
And say you're on a date and like 15 minutes in, they say something like racist or something that just is like a boundary of yours. And you're like, well, now I'm like stuck here for 45 minutes. I have to either have a cousin call me for emergency or I'm stuck here. Well, guess what? You can do that on a video call. I know it's a little awkward. Some people don't like being on like their face on it, but like it's kind of the new world no matter what. You might be doing it for work already. You're probably doing it with your relatives. You can vet someone. You can be like, hey, let's have a 30-minute call and get to know each other. And if you realize that person is like 100% not your type or 100% crosses your boundaries or whatever, then you didn't just spend like 2-3 hours getting ready, driving, going there, spending money. I think I like that aspect of it. I think that's kind of nice. I know obviously like, don't be like, oh, I didn't feel a spark on our video call. Like in-person chemistry matters.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you can be like, oh, that person just isn't. We have way different values in life, and you didn't spend so much time realizing that.
I for sure value my time way too much that I had a coworker a couple months ago try to set me up on a blind date with her friend, and I was like, listen, respectfully, like, I need to have a conversation. There has to be some like something because I value and I respect this person's time too. Like, I don't want to be in something on a date and they're not having a good time or I'm not having a good time. And it's just like exactly that. You're 10 minutes in, you're like, I gotta keep this alive for 50 more minutes. Yeah. Also, what I've realized, and I'm curious on your advice or what your thoughts are on this. I've found in my personal experience, the best first date is just coffee.
Oh my God, that's so funny you said that. I literally had this conversation. I think it was on the last podcast I was on. The last podcast I was on. We talked about that. 100% agree.
It's the best move.
Drinks, a little awkward. It's late. Let's be real. Like everyone's tired after work if that's what you're doing. And I don't know. Personally, drinking is not a huge thing of mine that I don't really drink
I've
much.
kind of exited that.
Yeah,
exactly. Recently.
Dinner. Expensive,
aggressive time,
and it's so awkward. I'm sorry, but like chewing broccoli or like salad or something.
Well, tell me where you're from, and I'm like trying to. It's so
awkward.
Yeah, I get it.
Coffee, inexpensive. Like during the day, which I truly think everyone's their best self at. Sorry, but and also if you're a day person, why would you want to be meeting at night? Daytime, great. Yeah, coffee. 100%.
Coffee's the best. It's easy. It can go really short if it's just not there, and everyone
Yeah, totally.
people get it and they just kind of move on, or you can extend it.
Yeah.
It's not a big investment. It's a cup of coffee.
And it's a good, given the pandemic keeps going the way it is, if being socially distant is something that you're very strict with, you can do a socially distanced coffee date. You can go walk around in the park, or maybe not walk 6 feet apart. That's a little awkward.
Yeah.
Sit down 6 feet apart. It is possible. So yeah, coffee's where it's at.
Yeah, that's the cheat code.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
That is totally the cheat code.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you though. I think it's smart to, with the online stuff, you can at least vet people out and not be wasting time.
But I will say that actually the way that I would have suggested to you not liking dating apps is to ask people to set you up with people. But then you were like, this blind date, no. You should give her a try. I mean, I get it, straight up blind date. Do people even do that anymore? If someone was like...
You're the expert. You tell me.
No. Oh my God,
I would never do that.
I think that's so weird. Yeah. I'm sorry, but okay. They're obviously you have to be a tiny bit attracted to someone to
totally.
initially have that connection and everything, but also just I want to know who I'm about to go spend my time with. That is just really awkward in my opinion.
Yeah, here's the thing too. In that one example, I'm such a people's person that even me creeping on this girl's Instagram, she's a cute girl, I'm sure she's a very kind person, but I could tell, I was like, this is not the energy. It just wasn't I'm just so dialed in on people that through captions I can see what you're trying to portray, what you're trying to say to the world, and anybody, it's not to say what this person was doing is bad or whatever, but I just was it's not there. I need somebody that is extremely independent, that is marching to the beat of her own drum, just has a vision, dialed in on what she wants to do.
You can definitely tell someone's values in that sense, and like you said, priorities and everything from someone's Instagram. You can. Yeah. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I slide through a lot of DMs. That's been my best way to go about it.
I am 100% shoot your shot.
Yeah.
Shoot your shot. If you didn't see DM someone, what would have happened is that you would have never have talked. Well, if they never message you back, it's literally the same outcome that it would have been if you had not slid into their DMs. 100% shoot your shot.
So this is what I love too about you coming in today, is that the majority of the audience that listen to this podcast, I think, is about 75-80% male.
Right. Sup, guys.
So I love that. I love that because I could bring in another guy that is a dating expert, right? Which is, if he's a guy, it's great. But I think it's so important. There could be males that are listening that are attracted to other males, which is totally cool. But I think there is maybe a large portion that are attracted to women. What is there just quick rapid fire advice that you give to guys? Maybe your boyfriend introduces you to his friend and he's single and he's like, what do I do? I need to date more. I don't feel I'm not confident enough. Is there any go-tos? You just said, shoot your shot. I live by that. That's everything across life. Sending an email for a job, sliding through a DM.
Seriously.
That's a great first one. Is there any other ones that you kind of are the go-tos?
Let's see. Go-to. They're having trouble with their dating. Okay. I mean, honestly, guys. Okay. Real talk. Guys need to be a little bit less superficial. I just hear so many guys, especially in LA, be like, I just keep dating girls and they're so their priorities are so out of whack. And I'm just like, well, how are you're choosing to date these women. So you are swiping on these women. Maybe reflect on that.
Yeah.
Really decide if you're why you're swiping right on someone is in alignment with what you actually want from the person that you're dating. If you keep dating people that are the same way, say they're just after your money, or they're just they don't have much, they can't hold an intellectual conversation. The problem is not them. The problem is you. You are doing something to attract those women. You are doing something to choose those women. So really reflect on that and maybe swipe on some other women that are a little bit outside your range if a serious relationship is what you want. I hear that all the time. Just guys are just oh, women are I'll just want money. And I'm like, sounds like you're only dating law of attraction and stuff. I'm like, if you believe that, it's going to happen to you. But so that's a big one. And then confidence. Oh, here's another one. can we please, I'm like, here's the rant. Can we please stop putting the most, like, guys always joke about how girls put basic stuff in their profile. Guys, you do the same. You do the same stuff. The biggest joke in the girls community, or women's community, like us women, is that guys answer the Hinge question prompt of what are you competitive about, and guys always answer everything. It is insane.
Such a tool move. I would never in my life chime in on that.
It's like there's a lot. Like, I'm not even saying it's every now and then. It's basically almost everything
profile.
That's everything. They say that
everything. Oh, that's a really, like, what is she supposed to do with that? Like, how is she gonna run with that?
Right. I think, okay, so I heard I can't take credit to this, although I can't give credit to it because I can't remember who exactly said it, but you should not be making your dating profile, like, applicable to everyone. You should be, if you are interested, I always use this as an example, if you are interested in cosplay, post a freaking picture of yourself in cosplay and find yourself a woman that thinks that is cool. She doesn't necessarily have to cosplay with you, but, like,
what is that? Explain to me.
Really, does that sound okay? If you don't know what it is, then that might sound like very sexual. That's like where you Comic-Con, where you, like, dress up like like superheroes or comic book characters.
Got you.
So if that's something you're really into, post pictures of you're doing it.
Then they're gonna, the ones that are
yes. And then women do it all the time too. We're like, oh, we like hiking, brunch, and this. It's like, okay, come on, like, is that really all you care about? Like, you're not trying to make your profile be acceptable or have every girl swipe right on you. You want only the girls to swipe right on you that are people you would actually want to date, you know? Not this, like, oh, this is a presented online version of me. Like, make your profile authentic. It's like number one.
Authentic and unique. Be different.
Yeah, exactly. Don't try to make everyone swipe right. Stand out in your own authentic way. If that means that you are obsessed with coffee culture, talk about coffee culture. Or if it's really important that, if you're Jewish and it's really important that the person you date is Jewish, say you're Jewish. Say, like, you know, lean into that. Again, the cosplay, like, post a picture of yourself. Just don't try to appeal to the masses. That's not the point of dating. Yeah.
I think it's hard to do for a lot of people. I think they don't understand how to communicate who they are, or they're afraid. Authenticity, literally, like, that's the most important trait anybody can have, is how can you, let me take a step back. Part 5 of the journal that I do. Part 5 is impact. And that's literally, if I showed you every day writing for the last, since October, you would think I'm a psychopath because I write the same 3 to 5 sentences. And ultimately what I'm trying to say is that the impact I want to have on people is I want to give them the permission to be their most authentic self.
Right. Based
on how I put myself out there through podcasting. I talk about whatever I'm going through. I post about whatever I'm going through.
Right.
The authenticity is literally the most important aspect of anybody's life, because if you're authentically you, exactly what you were just saying, you're going to attract the people that are aligned on who you are. But if you're trying to be somebody you're not, what's going to happen? You're going to be pulling in people that are attracted to this image of who you are, quote unquote, are, but you're actually not.
Right.
But I think it's really hard for people to be willing to step up and share what they're actually feeling, their interests, and who they actually authentically are at their core.
Yeah. I think if that is hard for you, and this is, like, very surface level in the sense of, like, crafting an online profile or something, like, just message your friends. Don't even tell them what it's about, and just be like, hey, how would you describe me? Like, what would you say is, like, the most interesting things about me? And see what your friends say. Friends have, like, these objective, sort of objective ideas of who we are, right? So, like, it's sometimes hard to see ourselves as, like, what's cool and what's unique about us, but our friends can see it point blank. So that could be a way. And, you know, I always say, like this is a therapy technique and everything. If you're scared to do something, exposure effect, like, just do little things towards it, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. So if that's, like, you know, talking to a girl about something you're really interested in, that you always hide about yourself, or talking about your feelings, or speaking up when you really like someone and telling someone you had a really good time. instead of being scared that they'll like shy away from something, saying something like that. The more that you just do those little things, the easier it gets.
Yeah. What's the best app to be on right now? I have Hinge. I've tried Bumble. I feel like Tinder is long gone. What's the best apps to be on?
Tinder is long gone. I'd say Hinge, 100%. I think that I like their whole like, oh, we're what do they say? We're designed to delete.
So cute.
So cute.
We're designed to delete.
You know, gosh, and then when I'm saying that, like I feel like almost every dating app has reached out to me because like I guess I'm on PR lists for like dating people because I get people all the time, companies and mostly dating apps, which I write for a dating app. Iris Dating. They're great too.
What's it called?
It's just not as big. Iris Dating.
Iris Dating. I thought you said Irish Dating. I was like, I'm
like,
pirate Irish. I gotta fucking slide in there. Get me the face of the brand. I'll be the public speaker at this point.
Oh my god.
Iris Dating. I've never heard of that.
I want to say they started in either New York or San Francisco. Now they've kind of moved more to LA and other big cities, but their whole thing is that you have to be verified. You have to have your photo verified. So you take a selfie in real time with their app, and then you also upload the photos of your profile. And then it's the moderators go through and make sure you're actually a real person. So their big thing is like date with protection. So they are, if you don't want to get catfish, that's a good way to go about it. And they also have like this whole algorithm that like takes into account the people that you swipe or that you are matching with and the people you're interested in. And so they use that
to feed you more
of it. Exactly. Facial recognition. So it's like
it's okay.
The facial recognition. So it's like the actual photos and stuff. But with that being said, I mean, I write for them, so I'll say, Iris, but also Hinge. I just think Hinge is great. Bumble's good. I kind of don't actually like the whole thing of like the girl has to make the first move. Yeah. And it's like the whole like, oh, it disappears in 24 hours if the girl doesn't say something. I think it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's also like, who's on a dating app all the time? Yeah. I mean, some people are 100%. Some people are, but I just don't like that.
I don't like it either.
Hinge. I think Hinge is like the place to be.
Yeah. I feel like it's a good middle ground, and it's not just, I mean, there's images, but then there's prompts. So it kind of, I try to, anytime that I've jumped in on a Hinge, it's usually through the prompt because it's like, okay, 100%. You post this picture and I'm extremely attracted to you, but like, what am I going to say? Like the prompts allow it's a very neutral thing. So It's not like you're jumping in on this picture of this girl at a beach.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, clearly like 99% of the guys are jumping in on this image, but I want to be the 1% that jumped in on the prompt. Like, wait, why is this guy jumping on this, you know?
Yeah. And I think it makes it way easier to talk to someone because it's like, sometimes it's really awkward to figure out what to say first, you know, like, hey, how's it going?
That doesn't work. I know that doesn't work. So I never do that. It never works. Fellas, if you're listening, if you're Hinge, you have to figure it out for yourself. But Instagram, the best way to slide through a DM is replying to somebody's story.
Oh, 100%.
That's the best way to get the conversation started, and then trying to roll with it.
Yeah.
And that's the best way instead of just the cold, like, hey, like, even then I try to think through, like, all right, what am I about to slide through and say that's going to like catch their attention? But yeah, it's a little bit of a trial and error game. Totally. Is in dating, is it still what? I don't even know how to phrase this question, but is the guy supposed to pay for everything on the first day, second day, third day? Where are we in 2021? Because I've seen mixed reviews. I've been with people where they're like, nope, I want to split it every time. Like, and then I've heard like, well, this guy he didn't even pay for the tab.
Right.
What is the state of 2021 for that stuff?
Okay, so I'm just going to say real talk from talking to women and girls and everything and having a lot of these conversations. Now, is this what I think? No. This is what women say. First off, guys, I feel really bad for you because honestly, it's like 50-50. Some girls will be so offended if you don't pay for the check, and some girls will be offended if you don't want to offer to split the check. And some girls will just like, offer to split it right away. Also, some girls will offer to split it, but if you take them up on that offer, will be offended. So honestly, like,
pay for it.
I guess honestly at this point I still don't think that we're here's the thing. If being with someone who wouldn't want to offer to split it with you or wouldn't be down to split it with you is a deal breaker, then offer to split. Oh, and you know what? Maybe just offer to pay for it and see if they offer to split it. Yeah. And if it matters to you, don't go on a date with that person again. Or just, say that you want to split it. And if they get offended, then again, that person's not for you. But yeah, it's pretty wild how like it's so different. So many girls feel so different about it. Personally, I wouldn't mind splitting it. I want to be equal with the person that I'm dating. And
you want to be equal.
Yes. I mean, I am. I'm in a relationship. I like to think we're equal. But I don't expect like the person that I'm dating to pay for everything just because I'm a woman. Yeah.
But I think but even then, I think like for me, for instance, if I'm going to start dating somebody and start seeing somebody, to me, at least the first 3 dates, I just want to step up to the plate, do it. There's no conversation about how to split it. That's just me personally. Not saying that's the way to do it, but I feel like 3 times is solid. And then after that, if they want to offer to pay half, it's like a little bit different at that point because it's like you've been on a few dates, you kind of feel the fire or see where it's going. But I think it's tough. And then it changes though. Like you're saying, if you've been dating somebody, I think that's a whole nother conversation where it's like, that's so much different. But I definitely think it's an interesting thing when you're first starting to see somebody. Do you start offering immediately or do you play that game of like trying to split it?
Yeah. I mean, if you feel comfortable paying for it, pay for it and see how their reaction is, I think a lot of girls at this point would be like, hey, let's split it. And you can just be like, oh, no, whatever. But yeah, it is a lot different. Every girl's very different on that.
Yeah. One of the topics that you had suggested when we were booking this podcast was insecurities, which I think is really important.
Right.
And we've kind of touched it a little bit here and there, but how have you not let insecurities control your life?
Oh boy, lots of ways. I see. Okay, so I think the biggest insecurity that I had was caring a lot about what other people thought. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate, judge. I'm just very all up in my head about the judging and everything. And I think the biggest mindset shift that totally changed that is I was like, one day I just thought about it. I was like, you know what? Like, okay, for example, I'm going to just a little story. So like before I got into writing and everything, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I did marketing when I first graduated college. And then I was like, marketing is not my jam. Don't like it. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I actually got into coding. So I tried to become a software engineer and I was doing a coding boot camp. And I was like, this is great. I'm going to make so much money. And like, I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm smart because I'm blonde and that comes with the stigma of everyone thinking you're stupid. And so I pursued that for a bit. I got into technical recruiting, which, always recruiting has the promise of making so much money, blah, blah, blah. But when I realized how much I also hated that, I was like, wow, I really just wasted a lot of money and time doing all of that. And for what? Because I wanted to prove to people on Facebook and that I went to high school with that I made something of myself. Like what? So later I had this realization. It's like, am I going to live my life based off of other people's thoughts, even my parents, their ideas and thoughts of me that last maybe like 5 to 10 seconds a day, if that? The people from my high school, maybe 5 to 10 seconds of seeing my picture on Facebook. Am I going to base my life off of their small thoughts about me that my choices based off that are going to affect me for the rest of my life? Like if you are living off making decisions off of someone's judgments about you, those judgments and thoughts are literally like a blip in like their lifespan, but you are making entire life choices based off of their thoughts, very insignificant thoughts. And that's going to last you a lifetime. So it's like you can continue to live a life where you're, creating a life that is based off of other people's ideas of you and one that doesn't truly make you happy, or you can just do whatever the hell you want and, not care what people think.
Yeah. A good way to look at it is, are you living your life or are you allowing others to live it for you?
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Are they making bigger decisions for you? It's good to get people's opinion, get people's advice.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like if they're telling you need to get that job and you get the job, they're not the one that's showing up every day.
Right.
You're the one that's actually doing the damn work.
Yeah.
So
especially when it comes to career, you spend so much time in your career.
I know.
It's crazy. People that pursue things just for like the money, I'm just like, oh my God.
It's so short term. I'm so fortunate, and it's really I'm a product of my parents just like ingraining this in my head since I was a kid. Like, no matter what you do, as long as you love it, we'll always support you. Like, you know, my father, my mom always saying like, find something you really want to do with your life. But I went to college with kids that when I was graduating from a top business school in the Northeast, telling people, yeah, I'm going to drive Uber full time. I'm going to start a podcast. I have no idea what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. One, people were questioning my own decision. Like, what do you mean you're not getting a job? You're driving Uber? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Right. Two, I had kids that were homies of mine that were like, yeah, my parents literally are forcing me to get a job. There was no, they wanted them to, it was like part of the family's reputation that Alex is graduating and he's working for the Big Four or something like that, you know? So it was, I had so much like empathy for people like that like, man, it's not even their choice. They're literally having to do it because their parents want them to. Mm-hmm. Their parents want them to become the doctor or the accountant because it's following the family's footsteps. But it's like they're not even interested in doing that shit. Right. Like, imagine there's a lot of people that wake up every single day and they dread what they do. Yeah. That's like so... Like, I get caught up in my day-to-day where, like, I just want to fucking go. I just want to do these crazy-ass things. I want to, like, big picture, big studio, big budgets, Netflix, fucking HBO, hit me up. You know, like, I want to go big. And then I have to ground myself and remind myself, like, do you realize how fortunate you are that you're excited about life? You're excited about the direction you're going, that you're excited.
There's growth, there's potential, there's things that then you're following something you want to be doing 100%.
It's such a blessing, but
yeah, I get it that some people do, like, you know, the pressure from your family is real, especially when it's your parents. Like, your parents, the pressure from your parents is real. But I don't know, it's scary. It's hard. It takes a lot of courage, but you know, it's your entire life and you only have one of it to live. And if you're literally waking up every single day and hating what you do, it's not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it. I would imagine there's definitely going to be some people that do listen to this podcast that are in relationships. Mm-hmm. So if they made it through the first 40 minutes, they're like, fucking like, all right, we get it. Like, you guys are all single. I'm in a relationship, whatever. I read in a blog you had written, a relationship can't be perfect. You are going to inevitably fight. You're bound to be bored at some points. The sex will get stale. Things will become mundane. How should people go about keeping that fire alive when it starts to run out? Oh, I love that you read one of my articles. Thank you.
I just deep diving. I went everywhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, blog posts. TikTok. Yeah, I went all over the place.
Okay, so how do you keep the passion or the flame alive? I don't know how I feel about like the word passion. People like take that word to a whole different level. Did I say
passion?
I don't think so. Okay.
I like the fire. How to keep the fire burning, you know what I mean?
You know, okay, so the biggest thing I think is that people get into relationships and then think, or, you know, get married or whatever. I'm not married, so we'll just stick to relationships. And think that, you know, you get into long term and you move in and it's just like you stop kind of dating each other. And that's when I think that, you know, people get bored or people, you know, sex gets bored, all of that. Sex gets stale and boring and all of that. You need to just keep having the mindset, I think, your entire life that like you are still dating your partner. You're still getting to know them. I think all of us can agree that like we are always constantly changing throughout our lives. Like I am not the same person that I was when I was 26, 2-3 years ago.
You probably weren't the same person when we're two completely different people since the last time we saw each other. Exactly.
And if you think that your partner is the person that they were when you were first dating, and that was that's the only time that you can really do all the fun stuff and like get to know each other and like try new things together, like you are bound to get bored. You are bound to get things are gonna get just mundane, and that your day-to-day is going to look the same. Like keep dating each other, keep figuring out like what your partner's new aspirations are or fears, or what are their thoughts, or like what are you guys trying new together, what's their hobby that they're newly trying. Like go on dates, go out to dinner every week, you know. I just think that people get into this mindset and they're like, okay, we're comfortable, this is good, our relationships is this, it's, you know, it's kind of not like what it used to be, but it's comfortable, like it is what it is. It doesn't have to be comfortable. And I think that another big thing is the communication. Like, it's okay to tell your partner, hey, I feel like things have been boring lately. Like, not like, that was a little aggressive. Hey, I think it's really boring. Can I curse? Can I curse on this?
You
point?
can say whatever you want.
I feel like this relationship's been so boring as fuck. Like, can we fucking change that?
That'll be the day when I'm dating a girl and she comes and says that to me.
You're like, oh, stop.
It'll literally be, I'll be like, what the fuck are we doing then?
I mean, to be fair, I'd rather my partner be like, wow, this relationship is really boring, than to be like, than to like silently think that themselves. Like, speak up. And, you know, it looks different for everyone, but have the communication to be like, hey, things are getting a little like stale, or even in the bedroom. Like, if you're like, oh, our sex life is just not what it used to be, communicate more. Like, what have you been wanting to try? You know, sometimes, I don't know how much you guys talk about sex on this podcast, but here we go.
All day. Here we go.
Like, you know, if you're like, hey, I want to role play, and your partner's like, oh, that's kind of scary. Find something in the middle, like maybe like something that's just like slightly role playing and like compromise, and have both of your needs met. I talk so fast sometimes.
I love it. No, you're passionate. I love it.
And so, just communicate. I feel like people are so scared to be able to say that things are wrong in their relationship. And so I write a newsletter and everything. And what I've always admired about like my newsletter is that it's mine. I can write whatever the hell I want. And so I'll be really honest. I'll be like, hey, like lately I've been feeling bored in my relationship, guys. Like, what's up? Who else feels this? And like, this is what I'm doing to help it. And I'm not afraid to be like, hey, to my boyfriend, hey, what can we do to like shake things up a little bit? Or, you know, like, can we have a conversation and like kind of like plan out some things that we can do? Or in the bedroom, like, hey, you know, I feel like we've just been having like the same old sex. Let's try something new. Like, let's get a new like toy or something to do something different. Communicating. The biggest thing. The biggest thing.
So I feel like because you're so in this world, like for the most part, do you feel like your relationship with him is just pretty smooth sailing? Because like you're so in this world that like you're gonna communicate when something's wrong. You guys are gonna find ways to spice it up when it's starting to get stale. Like, do you feel like? And I know that behind the scenes there's always gonna be things that need to be worked on. But like, do you feel like the most part it's smooth sailing because you just know what works and what doesn't work? Well, a lot of people are just like shooting from their waist. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've heard some podcasts. I've read some books.
Right.
Hopefully this relationship is going right.
Yeah. I think our relationship is just like has a very solid foundation. So Period has a very solid foundation.
How long you guys been dating? So we have context.
1.5 years.
That's solid.
Thank you.
It's about 1.5 years longer than my most recent relationship.
But also, like, to be fair, we've been friends for like 4 years, so we have some.
That's a key.
I know, we have the friendship. I mean, we were like best friends, but we were like friends through a group of guy friends that I went to college with. So we definitely knew each other. What was the question?
I'm just so intrigued now because now the
you're like, we must talk about this.
Wait, the four years friends and then dating?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot. I've even had friends recently tell me like, yo, I'm just like trying to like, you know, hit on this girl and she friend zoned me because we just are in the same group of friends. So, and my sister even recently within the last couple of years, she went from like best friend relationship to then now dating for 1.5 years, and it's solid. So it's going great for them. Is that hard to do do you think a lot of people like to step in where it's like, you know them as a friend and then it escalates, or?
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. He's not the first guy I dated in that friend group.
That's amazing.
I dated actually kind of 2 of the guys in that friend group. One was like very casually dated and really went nowhere, but one of the guys I did like, he wasn't my boyfriend, but we did full on date. And we went through the whole transition of like, let's be more than friends, which was what he prompted it. And then we were dating for a bit. I don't think the guy we always call it the crew. That's our guy friends.
Crew. I love that.
Like the crew
love. Is that Drake wrote that song? Was that about you?
Oh God. So yeah, they didn't really know about it. We kind of kept on the DL, and then we decided it wasn't there. Like, we didn't feel it, so we decided to go back to being friends. And we're still friends today, and that went smoothly, and we managed it well, and we were really open and honest with each other. And then when it came to my boyfriend, I actually initiated things. I was at the end of my like single year thing, and then I mentioned to someone like one of the crew's girlfriends that I thought my boyfriend Nish was cute, and she was like, oh my god, you need to go on a date with him. I was like, whoa, slow your freaking I'm like, oh my god. And actually our first date, I asked him to get lunch, and he had no idea it was a date. And
oh, that's hilarious. It was just like he thought it was just like,
no, he was just like, oh, Kirstie wants to hang out alone. That's kind of weird, but okay. He even left it. Like, I was like, oh, cool. After brunch, like, we can like walk around, because it was here. It was at the Rose Cafe. So I think it's Rose Cafe, whatever it's called.
Right here, Venice.
And I was like, oh, we can walk around or whatever. But like at the end, he was like, all right, I'm gonna go. Like, I'm Ubering over to some people in the crew, and he's like, oh, I'm going to watch football right by. And I was like, wait, what? I thought this was like, okay, bye. Like, he like left to go watch football. I was like, and then like because like we're also all friends, I was like, wait, why was I not invited? But anyways, yeah, so it was a very interesting like transition into the friendship. I mean, I just feel like if you're going to try it, you have to have open communication that you
hey, this
like,
is a date.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Like, do you tell them that? Like, hey, I want to go on a date with you. We're getting lunch.
I think if you're a guy to a girl, if you are interested in being more than friends, yes, say that it's a date. And I have something more I want to say to that, but I was going to say something else first. If you're
both.
If you're going to try, be open and honest from the get-go. What are we going to do if this doesn't work out? How are we going to handle this? Are we going to take some time apart? Is this going to be like looking like, some months apart? But like in the end, the friendship has to be like number one. And that's what happened with the first guy that I dated in the group. We're like, friendship number one. Like we cannot let this like break
everything.
Yeah. And so the other thing that I was going to say, what was I going to say? What was that?
Friendship, dating, being open communication from the jump.
Right. Open communication from oh, okay. So if you're a guy to a girl, I would say, this is a date. So here's the thing with friend zoning. Here we go. So for guys getting friend zoned. And this blew my mind when I first heard it. And I don't think it's applicable to everyone, but I think it's very applicable to guys.
Yes.
So women are taught to be like, it's cool to express your feelings, right? It's cool to like snuggle with your girlfriends when you have a sleepover. Like that's totally normal and everything. Like having that close intimacy is what's the word I'm looking for? Promoted. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it's a blonde word. Promoted in like, it's okay to do that when you're a female. But for guys, they aren't. Like you're not having a sleepover with your dude friends and like cuddling. And I think that like the most intimacy guys feel usually is when they're in a relationship and with their parents and that, but it's the relationship. So when a guy and a girl become friends and the girl and the guy are, getting close, the girl's thinking, oh, this is normal. This is how friendships are. But the guy's like, oh my God, we're so close. We're sharing feelings. We're, like hanging out all the time. She must like me. And then he shoots a shot. She's like, no, I only see us as friends. And then he's like, I'm friend zone. Woe is me. So I'm just saying, like, be aware of that as a guy girlfriend. I still think shoot your shot, but just know that if she's like, I see you as just a friend, don't take it so personally. Like, it's not because you're a bad person or anything, but it's just how it is. Like, sometimes girls see that close friendship as literally just a friendship, and sometimes guys see it as more. But if you do go into it, be clear it's a date, so they know you're not like dating 2-3 dates or 2-3 like dinners in, and then you try to make a kiss and she's like, oh my God, what's going on? Yeah.
So another part of this conversation I think is super interesting too, is like even one of my roommates, maybe they won't hear this, but it's funny now because I just started living with these guys, so they have no idea that I now have a platform that I talk about. Just they don't even know that I might be throwing them under the bus, but sorry guys. I won't say the person's name, but even for instance, he was seeing somebody recently, and like the second date hangout sesh, there was already like confession of like how she was feeling for him. It seemed pretty aggressive. Like I'm big on like, I am total, like I will communicate how I'm feeling, but I won't be like, hey, like Kirstie, like I really like you. And
Kirstie.
Like, did I say it again?
That's okay, because it's usually people from certain parts of America say,
and thank you for speaking up immediately and say it one more time.
Kirstie.
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 I thought I said Kirstie. I said
It's like
Kirstie.
Kirstie. Which I feel like some people don't
Kirstie.
hear. Yeah. Some people don't hear the difference.
Got you.
Some people are just like, I'm saying it Kirstie. I'm like, it's Kirstie.
Anytime, if I'd say it any other time, correct me. Kirstie. Thank you. Damn you, Bob. Anyway, so I will say I'm attracted to you. Mm-hmm. We go on a date. We go on 2 dates. I'm not gonna like. I know that I'm not gonna be like, hey, like this is how I'm feeling. Like I'm not gonna like set it up, but I'm gonna flirt in a way where like he's definitely interested in me. Like I'll say certain things. I'll be smart. But then for an example, like I was saying, this girl, and I'm not pointing at her specifically because it happens, I'm sure, in guys doing the same. They communicate pretty aggressively, pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. How do you balance showing somebody you're interested without, I like to say, folding all your cards?
What I'm curious. Do you know like what's your idea of the showing all your cards too soon?
By literally saying like, hey, if I literally said to you like, hey, I'm super attracted to you, like this is yeah, something along that lines, like yeah. I don't know, actually. It's kind of tough. I think it's case by case for sure. Mm-hmm. But it's tough. There was even a girl that I was like super interested like 2 months ago. I shot my shot recently. She said now she's starting to see somebody. I said, it's all good. Slide through my DM when you're back on the market because I know it's going to happen. Anyway, so it's a matter of time. Anyway, but even when I was showing the interest to her, I like told her in person, I was like, listen, I'm not here to get you all revved up because if I say too much, you're going to think I'm way too attracted to you, blah, blah. But I was like, you're like a diamond in the rough. So I would gently say something, like try to be somewhat flirty, but not like, hey, I really like you. Like we need a date, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
At what point, at least the way I was told it was communicated to him, it was like, hey, like I really like you. Like, I can't remember specifics of what was said though.
So my thoughts on that are going to be a lot different than yours.
Can't wait. This is what I love. This is a great dynamic.
Yeah. So I actually think that girl should keep doing what she's doing. And I think that she probably has a very strong, I always talk about attachment style. She has probably an anxious attachment style. She has a strong need for intimacy, a strong desire for it. And for her, speaking up about her feelings is, how she shows it. And I think that by her being like, oh, I'm going to suppress that and like kind of like play it cool for a bit is going to make her match with someone who won't be able to meet her needs even long term. So I think that by her speaking up, she's going to, push away the people. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with your roommate. I'm saying that they just have different intimacy needs. And I think that it's going to push away the people that aren't going to be able to meet her strong desire for deep intimacy. So I think that
she's being authentic.
She's being authentic. Yeah. And I think that that's it. I think that sometimes people will, especially girls, we try to be the cool girl. We try to be the chill girl, the bro girl, and, do all these things. But then this is like, we can become the crazy girls because all of a sudden we switch. We're like, all right, now we got them locked down. They are our boyfriends. And now we're going to go from being the chill girl to being the girl that actually had all these needs and desires and wants and everything this whole time. But I was just suppressing them because I wanted you to like me. Versus if I had been honest from the get-go, like, hey, I am a very like, I like you. I really want to get into a serious relationship and like say that pretty quickly after getting to know someone. Then, and it's different saying like, I really like you versus like idealizing someone, which some people do. And that's not healthy either, but just being upfront that like, I like you, I can see this going somewhere. When she feels it, I feel like is going to put her match her with someone who's going to be good for her long term. And, same with your roommate. He wants someone that, probably doesn't want to be, isn't going to be so needy and isn't going to be, have so much like an anxious attachment style. And that's fine. Like maybe your roommate has a secure attachment style or even an avoidant attachment style. In the long run, he's probably going to be better off with that girl or not with that girl. In the long run, he's going to be better off without that girl. It's just different needs, intimacy needs.
How do I figure out what my attachment style is?
Oh gosh, attachment style is like my jam and also like a huge thing that I could spend like hours talking about. But let's see. Most like common way. Okay. Best way to put it. When you get close to someone, how do you feel? Is it pretty like okay? do you feel like you want to kind of pull away from them?
No, I love close. Like,
okay.
Now, does this mean in the sense of dating or just in general speaking?
I mean, it could be in general. It actually could be in general, but we'll just keep
because I'm a people's person. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I like being close to people.
So what's the closest you've come to being like a serious relationship? Have you had a girlfriend?
Yeah, in high school was the last time I had like a girlfriend, and
that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's
so
long.
It's like
I'm 27. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've been single long enough that I wouldn't even consider that.
Well, next time, I mean, when you do start getting into dating, if you're the type of person who feels comfortable being close to someone, that probably means you have a secure attachment style. If you're the type of person that's like clinging onto them, imagining wedding bells like 3 dates in, like head over heels, you probably have an anxious attachment style. And if you're the type of person that's like, ooh, this is moving too quickly, or like I'm nervous about this, you probably have anxious.
So interesting. The one thing that kind of just popped in my head when you said the second one, the wedding bells, right?
Right.
There's certain people that I come across, or girls, and I'm like, this is like, I don't want to say the one, but I was like, like I can already tell this is like somebody, I don't want to like grade them, but I was like, there's so many boxes that check off for this one that I'm so interested already.
Right.
But then there's other ones where it's just like, this is cool. Like we'll see where this goes.
Totally.
So is there also potential to kind of be a little bit of both?
Well, I think that there's a difference between being like, this person could potentially be a great partner for me, and truly thinking that you have found the one like 2 dates in and you don't know them well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course there can be, there's an in between, right? You're not just like one, you're not anxious and just secure. Not everyone's just like secure, anxious, avoidant. But I will say this, that, regardless, and like a thing that like a lot of anxious people do to like help alleviate those type of problems, because a lot of people don't want to be thinking like of wedding bells like 2 dates in, because usually you can't know someone well enough, like judge someone on how things are going after like a month or 2 of dating, not like just a date or 2 in. I really think that people like jump into dating too quickly. You need to know if you can respect someone and you can trust someone before diving in and being like, this is the one. Because, people are on their best behavior when they're dating, right? Like people are, trying to like play it cool or this or that. Like take some time to really get to know someone before you're like so emotionally invested. But I mean, back to what you were saying, like, I think there's a little bit of a difference between realizing that someone has the qualities that you were really looking for, and then being like, I go to bed imagining what it will be like at our wedding, and we've only been on 3 dates.
Well, what's the advice that you give for people that are navigating, like, when does it become from, I'm seeing / dating somebody, to then I'm solely dating this one person? How do you know when to take that leap or have that conversation?
Okay. You know what is so interesting about that? And I have to say this because it still blows my mind. So I lived abroad for 2 years. I lived in China and South Korea and France, yada, yada. And so during that time, I dated 2 foreigners. They're Europeans. I dated a British dude and I dated a French dude. And both of them, and they were like, I met one in China and one in South Korea. They don't know each other. Like both of them were like, oh, you silly Americans, you have this conversation of being exclusive. Like in France, we just are. And I'm like, what does that even mean? He's like, and the British guy said the same thing. Like in Europe, and I had this conversation with a girl on her podcast, and she's Jamaican, and she's like, we do the same thing. And I'm like, so you're just dating, and then at some point you just know you're exclusive without talking about it? And same with the boyfriend girlfriend talk, all of it. They just like naturally roll into it. And I'm like, what does that say about America's dating culture? Like, are we just like way more casual? It blew my mind when they said that. I was like, whoa.
So essentially, if somebody goes on a date, you're telling me that the British guy, when he goes on a date with somebody for a first time date, that both parties know at this moment in time, I'm seeing nobody else except you right now.
I don't think it's the first date. And maybe I should have had more conversation. I mean, it was a bit ago. I don't think it's the first date. I think it's like dating for like a week or 2 ish. And I say dating, like, you've gone on maybe like 4 or 5 dates, and they're starting, and and then it's like, all right, I don't know. Or maybe it's the moment you start sleeping together. It blew my mind. And then they were like, oh, I forgot you have to have these conversations. I was like, What? What? As Americans?
Damn, Americans, maybe
we're
our
right?
own breed.
Yeah, truly. But okay, back to us. Okay, so how do you know when it's time to take that conversation? Honestly, like I said, when you feel like if you actually know someone, like you can trust them, you have mutual respect, you know them well enough, so at least like a month or two, have that conversation. Also, exclusivity is different than like you are my boyfriend and I am your girlfriend or whatever. Exclusivity, I think you can have that conversation as soon as you start having sex if you want to, because sexual safety is important. But as for like the boyfriend girlfriend talk, once you've known someone good enough and you feel like you want to have that conversation, have the conversation. I don't think there's anything wrong with like wanting to move into that once you know each other good enough or well enough.
Yeah. Do you think, I'm curious because of obviously the world that we're growing up is much different than the world that my parents grew up.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to impact the shift in marriage?
Oh, 100%. Marriage is 100%.
It's on the decline, I think, for the most part, right?
On the decline, yes. So a lot of the podcasts I've been doing have been all these Gen Zers, and their thought processes on even like I always thought like, oh, us like millennials, we're more chill about marriage. People are in all different kinds of relationships unless people want to get married. But Gen Zers, they're like so chill. They're like hookup culture is so big and everything. I definitely think that marriage is obviously on the decline. It's very obsolete. But personally, like I'll get married. Like it's in the cards of what I want. But I definitely don't think it's necessary, nor should anyone feel pressured into getting into marriage. And you can have a thriving, loving, just as great relationship if you never get married.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I just feel like it's such a different world now. We have access to so many different people and like I don't know. I just feel like there's people out there that have been in a relationship for 7-8 years and they see what else is out there. But at the same time, I believe, even though I've never been in in a relationship where it's like, if you find somebody that's compatible and it still has that fire and I really think, and I could be wrong, this is just my opinion, I feel like a strong component of a long, successful relationship is both parties need to be passionate about something or they're fulfilled from something that they like work purpose wise. It keeps them young. It keeps them driven so that they're not just focusing all their attention on their relationship. And that's the one thing that brings them happiness. Yeah. So I feel like that's a really important component of a healthy relationship is both parties like have these badass things that they do, but then come together, So I don't know if that's right or whatever, but I feel like that's also probably a strong component of a long relationship.
I actually think you make an amazing point. I think that marriage should be this like option thing we think of. If you find someone that checks off all the boxes of like someone who can make a great life partner, like communication, what you were getting at, essentially like the self-love component or like fulfillment in their life. If you really think you can form a lifelong bond with someone, which is like the skills of going through life's obstacles together, then cool, marriage is great. Like I think that that's the time that it can be, you can literally spend a whole lifetime with someone. But it's people that get into marriage and everything for like different. They're like, oh, it's just expected of me, or I'm like wildly passionate in love, but it's like that, fades over time. I was getting to a point and now I just completely forgot it. But anyways, there are definitely like characteristics of someone that would make for a great life partner. And I think it should be looked more at, have I found the right person more than I need to be getting married.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Where do you see yourself going in this whole world of like relationship, like of what you're doing? Like you're writing, you're doing TikTok videos. Like, is there like a grand vision? I think
it's actually wild you say that because my book was like a very grand vision and it came so much quicker than I thought it would.
Wow.
Again, with Shoot Your Shot, I quarantine started. I was like, wow, I have a lot of free time. Not that I like basically had the same amount of time, but mindset wise, well, I did. We're not hanging out with friends anymore. I had a lot more time. And I was like, I'm going to shoot my shot. I am going to pitch my book to this one publisher, Thought Catalog, and see what they say. And at first it was actually, Actually, I like just pitched this like random idea. I was like, if they take it, they take it, whatever. And then they actually went for it. And then I started to write the book. I was like, wow, this actually was a horrible idea. This kind of sucks. And then I was like, can I like repitch something to you guys? Like, I think I could write a better book.
We're gonna have to make some adjustments.
Yeah, and they're like,
not going the way I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah, totally. They're like, oh yeah, of course. So that was such a huge goal of mine. And look, I did that. So, I'm just kind of going with it and seeing where it goes. As of right now, I don't really have any ultimate big goals. Things come in. Everyone always asks me, am I going to coach? Am I going to help people with relationship coaching? And it's not really something that's ever resonated with me per se. Maybe there's an idea there that I might go off of, but I'm just kind of, if anything, life has taught me to just like head down a path, make little steps towards something, and like something just always comes into your vision, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I'm at that point now that the book is like out and I'm doing all the marketing. Like right now I'm just focusing on that, and then once that I'm like, I emerge from it all and can breathe again, I'll be like, what's next?
Yeah.
But right now I don't know what's next.
That's good though.
And I like that.
I think the most important part is that you have somewhat of an idea of like what you're supposed to be doing, which is exactly what you're doing, sharing your voice, whether it's through writing, blogs, whether it's a book, whether it's on podcasts. That the purpose for you every day is to be who you are, be authentic, and share your experiences, share what other people are going through, poll people's questions and use that as blog topics and share that out. And at some point, it just all slowly, the blueprint creates itself.
Yeah.
Like you can sit here and really think through like, what does that blueprint look like? What do I want to do? And that's good. It gives you like direction, but there's opportunities and things that happen along the way that you're never going to know.
Yeah.
It kind of just has to happen for itself. But at the same token, there's that balance of like, you got to shoot the shot when you see opportunities or you see
totally
ideas that you want to go for.
Actually, now that you say that, okay, that shoots the shot. It's sort of in the works. We've been putting it on hold because we've both been really busy, but there is another writer who was like, oh, I'm going to start co-authoring books with people, blah, blah, blah. And, I've always admired him, and I've always been like, oh, I've learned a lot from him. Just like he teaches a lot about online writing. And so I just commented on his Instagram post and I was like, hey, if you ever want to co-author a relationship book, let me know. And he was like, so down, let's do it. And we've had some talks about it, but we kind of put it on hold during like the holidays and everything. And then with my book marketing and everything. So we're jumping back into it after that. But I'm like, yeah, you just never know. Shoot your shot. You never know what's going to come. And actually, when I left my nannying job, I left my nannying job because I was making a full-time writing on Medium, and I was like, all right, I can go all into this now. The woman that I nannied for, who was an executive producer at the CW and is now writing shows for like Netflix and stuff, so she's a badass woman.
I was gonna say she's a badass woman.
She is a badass woman. She was like, oh, I'm so happy for. She's so sweet. I'm still in touch with them. Like, they're amazing. She's like, I'm so happy for you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, the biggest advice that I can give you is to just say yes to everything. Like, you never know where something will go. And I'm like, you know what? I really liked that piece of advice.
Yeah. I mean, that's at the end of the day, you got to say yes to opportunities that align, that make sense.
Yes. Not everything. Yeah. You don't want to be drained.
Yeah.
But like things that like make sense and, or like, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So when we did that podcast in 2019, you were still nannying full time?
Well, I was never nannying full time. I was always part time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was. Mm-hmm.
We both came a long way since then.
I know.
That's
Look at
awesome.
us.
Good
Look
for
at
you.
us. I know.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I read somewhere, I think on another blog too, that you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Yes.
I think it's really important, and that wasn't something that I really started to like make sure of until I had financial stability with a career with Liquid IV, and then even more so, I was making sure 8 hours for sure with quarantine, because there was no commuting anymore. So I had any time that I needed to do other things, I could get it done and still make sure that I had the 8 hours.
Right.
Why is that important to you? Because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it, of like the importance of sleep, but your body and your mind need it. It is so crucial. Yeah. Why is it important for you?
I mean, really what you just said right there. It's like, if I don't get that sleep, and especially with writing, right? Everyone's not a writer, but you can at least imagine that like putting pen or thoughts into your computer is not an easy thing if your mind is foggy because you're sleepy. there would be times where I would get horrible sleep and I could not write that day because I could put out like very basic things, but I could not think like the complex and like putting concepts together type of thoughts if I'm groggy. And so that was the biggest thing. So first off, it came, career, like writing and everything. But I've always been like, cause I've struggled with depression and my eating disorder. And so like, I've been through a lot of therapy and everything. So my mental health has always been like a very high priority to me. And I realized that if I didn't sleep, it's almost like I'm giving myself a chance to just like not be on it. This is my moment, even if I'm just sleeping, like to be like, I am going to be in the bed and just let myself sleep, because I don't know why, but before I just did not care, did not even like sleeping. Yeah. And maybe you can relate to that. I just
felt like I was losing time. That's why
a lot of people think that way.
Do like 6 hours of sleep and be like, it's time to get after it.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And like just being like, you know what, this is it. Like I'm in bed, I'm off, like get off the phone. Like this, I'm sleeping, sure. But like just prioritizing it.
Aside from sleep, what helps you keep a clear headspace? Because I think that is keeping a clear headspace is so important. And it's the reason I was out last night and I was having a conversation with somebody I just met. He said, how do you like when you're doing these podcasts, when you do your solo stuff, like how do you make sure that you're putting out the content? Like, how do you come up with these ideas? Or like, don't you ever wake up and you just feel like you're just not in the mood that day? And I said, honestly, man, it's been years in the making of trying to figure it out. But I said, what it came down to was me just getting super dialed in on my mental and physical health, where it's not an option anymore. It's not like I'm not feeling it today. It's like I force myself to, like, when I know every Monday night is when I record my solo podcast, there's no question about it. When I have a podcast on the calendar, I know when I wake up this morning, I got a pod today, time to get fucking dialed in, get my sweat in, meditate, journal. Yep. Like I need to get ready for it. So I've found my own practices so that when it's time to do this podcast, I'm locked in. I'm ready for it. What helps you keep that clear headspace aside from making sure you get to sleep?
Well, I think that what you said is so important. It's like consistency. First off, then I'll get to your thing. Consistency builds success. 100%. If I had to say anything, consistency. Like your podcast would not be doing well if you were like, oh, I'm just going to put it out whenever I want to, like whenever I just feel it. So again, with like getting up every day and having that. So you need to set yourself up for success to do that consistency, right? So you just need to think of it that way. So anyways, for me, I do, I journal, I write down thoughts a lot. I write down my thoughts so much that my notes app is like a jumbled mess. And I'm like, I need just like an assistant to go through all this and like
sort it out.
Make sense. But oh my God, between TikTok ideas, cause like now my brain's just always like thinks in like making TikTok.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good though.
Especially good. Like the skit ones. Cause like I do kind of like the funny ones too. I'm just like always thinking about it. So writing down things all the time, because like I like to connect concepts that people haven't really connected before. And then moving my body. So I used to be, I work out twice a week. My boyfriend and I have like a friend that helps us train and everything, but I also prioritize just like walking. I used to push myself so hard in college. I used to do CrossFit 6 times a week, like a maniac. And through that experience, I kind of learned that like trying to push myself too much physically makes me feel worse. And for me, I'm not like, some people love the gym and like, that's great. Just for me, I get so much more out of walking. I think clearer. I clear my mind. I get out, I get some fresh air. I move my body, and I'm just in such a better headspace if I do that versus like trying to like really physically exert myself. So walking helps too.
It's important that you're just self-aware of what works for you.
Exactly.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Like somebody likes yoga, somebody likes to walk, somebody likes to run, somebody wants to cycle, but you found the thing that allows you to think more clear or gives you that little bit of space so that you can disconnect. And I'm a big push of like, I would count that as a daily sweat. Like you walking, if you can walk daily, like that alone is so, I think it's so crucial for people to just get up, get active, move, especially the whole work from home.
Yeah.
Like just get out, walk around, just like
100%.
Disconnect, listen to a podcast, hopefully this one, or just like, I don't know, just like change it up a little bit.
Totally. And yeah, exactly like you said, work from home. Oh my gosh. I started seeing a chiropractor recently. I'm like, I needed this. My body.
Probably important.
Like my body.
not long ago just made a comment about having tough times, depression, eating disorder. I had read a blog. It's pretty, this is like some serious stuff. Summer 2018 wasn't the greatest summer.
Oh, which article did you read? I'm so curious.
I don't remember the name of it. I apologize.
Was it on the Washington Post? Was it that one?
I think so.
Okay.
Can you explain to me what was leading up to this moment, if you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're both, you could just say it.
There got to a point in your life that suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
I can't remember if in the blog you had attempted or were considering it or what the context was, but what was leading up to that moment?
Yeah. So this is probably because I haven't really spoken much on it, just because I think that was always the one thing that I was like, I've always been such an open book about my eating disorder and everything. And that was probably the one thing that I was most scared to talk about was my attempted suicide. Because I feel like it's so stigmatized as being like a hush hush, and I don't know, just like it's scary. People don't want to talk about it with you in a sense. Like they're not mean, it's just people don't know what to say. So what brought me to, I mean, I've struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts since I was like in middle school, and personally I'm under the belief that it's a very genetic thing. I just had very unlucky cards, and yeah. And so, but specifically with the summer 2018 was that, at the time, it didn't feel like it was a direct cause of anything. But I mean, I saw a therapist at the time. If you had to, like, from an objective point of view, like, it was the time that I stopped. I left my job as a technical recruiter. I went through that bad breakup. It was at the very beginning of me deciding to do the 1 year off dating. And it was kind of just a culmination of everything. And I guess, and I say I guess because it's just like sometimes depression doesn't feel like it has like a very specific root necessarily. It's just there. And I just, for some reason, lost the will to live. And it was definitely the darkest time. And yeah, I don't know.
I would imagine, like looking back at that now to where you are today, how does that feel?
Yeah, it is very interesting to do that. You always hear people say like things like, oh, I'm glad I did it because this happened. And I do feel the same way. I think that I'm glad that it my attempt wasn't successful in the sense. I also think that was really a deep wake up call. I would literally do anything. I would pay thousands of dollars to see a therapist before I ever got to that point again. So that's why, again, I really prioritize my mental health when I feel anxious, which lately the world and everything, I feel a lot of anxiety, but I just really prioritize my mental health over anything, over making money, over anything. And that was like a huge wake up call. Cause like once you get to the point where you really don't want to live, or like you don't, try to think of the way that I thought about it back then was just like, I just didn't care. I think some people think like they want to live, but they have these suicidal thoughts. I really just did not care. So I just never want to get in that headspace again. Cause it was a very scary headspace. And, yeah, it was just a very deep wake up call. At
the time you wrote that, or I don't know, I forgot the date of when that blog. I think the blog was written in 2020.
Yeah,
but at the time you had quoted saying that suicide was like the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. at the time. So I don't know, maybe it has shifted, which is still like crazy to think that the 10th leading death is due to something we're choosing.
Right.
Is that like, what are the steps to help prevent that from being 10 or 8 or 5 or 1? Like, how do we get that back down?
Yeah. You mean in the sense of like, yeah.
We need to have more conversations about it. Like the mental health. Do you meditate? I'm a huge meditator. I think that is literally I think it's the key to life.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
You're acknowledging your thoughts. You're aware of how you think. You're not attaching your mind. You're not attaching yourself to the positive or the negative thoughts. You're just the observer. Big meditation guy.
So I'm going to say it's twofold. And And it's hard to say like, oh, you know, like meditation can probably help for a lot of people. And 100%, there's studies that it does. I also can't speak to specifically how we can prevent suicide just from one specific thing, because like I think that also some people really can't prevent it unless they take medication. And personally, I never went the route of medication, not meditation. But I can't say that that's the case for everyone. Some people feel like that was their lifesaver, was medication. So, but I think the biggest thing is that we just it's the stigma behind mental health and suicide and all of it. If people are just more honest, like a lot more people think about dark thoughts than people are willing to talk about. I think having those conversations like, hey, how are you doing? And being more open about it, and being able to sit with someone when they tell you, hey, I'm not doing too good. I've been struggling a lot lately. And then I also think that, you know, it just needs to be more of like a commonly talked about thing. Like, does everyone know there's a suicide hotline out there? Like, if your friend told you that they were thinking about suicide, did you know that there's a number out there that they can call? Do you know what kind of like how to help them find resources? I hate to put it on like, oh, it's your friend's job to like save you, because it's not like, if your friend is suicidal, like that is a very heavy thing to deal with. But just being able to at least guide them and be like, all right, like here's what can be done here, or even people don't know that like if someone is telling you they're trying to commit suicide, there is literally a law called Baker Act where you can, you know, call the police and like they will take them into a custody for 72 hours and help them get them the treatment they need. It just needs to be like talked about more. Mm. And I guess that's like, you know, the paradigm shift right now is that people are talking about their mental health more and making it more of a priority. But it's the conversations with like the friends and between each other that like those are the moments that like we could catch it. And there's been, and what's really interesting is there's been a lot of, you know, the big celebrity suicides since 2018 with Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, and I feel really bad for not remembering his name because I love Linkin Park. Chris, is his name? Oh, I don't.
Well, I'm gonna blank on it now too.
Okay, Linkin Park's lead singer. You know, all of it's really sad, and I don't think it was. You know, I don't think it was something that they didn't talk about. If you listen to like the Linkin Park's lead singer, he talked a lot about how his
even Zed. Not Zed.
I was like,
sorry. Oh my god.
Avicii.
Avicii. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Jesus, Bob.
For a second, I was like, wait,
I'm sorry.
what?
Yeah.
Avicii. Exactly. It's like you know, people speak about like, oh, what's going on in my head is a really dark place, and it does take a lot to get someone out of there. But just having these conversations more and like not having it be such a stigma is like a big thing. But and at the same time, you know, when I was receiving like treatment for my depression and stuff, like there are things like meditation helps, and there's you know, like music therapy and like all these different modalities of them rather than just straight to medication. But some people do require it. It's a very complex thing. It is, honestly.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it's like anything else in life. I'm not here to say that meditation is the one thing that's going to solve it. I'm not saying medication is going to be the one thing. I'm not saying music therapy. It's going to depend on the person.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, that last night or yesterday, I pulled out The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Great book. I've read it probably a year ago at this point. I have a bunch of books coming in today. And so I was like, I just want to flip through something, read for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And within the first 30 pages, which I love this book, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Highly recommend it for anyone out there.
It's great.
I just love how he's just like, we need to stop believing, and it's mostly I think a lot of the shift is probably because of access to social media. We feel like shit. We mentally feel depressed, sad. We go on our phone and we're seeing everyone happy, and then it's like now it's digging us deeper because we're comparing ourselves. And I forget like how he directly said it, but it was just like, we need to understand like, he didn't say this directly, but what he was saying is like, it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
Like we're not supposed to be on this like high all the time. Like,
right.
Like the best thing that anybody can do is speak up, say something, or find a medium that allows you to like, put your thoughts out there. Similar to like you starting to write one blog and then it kind of
right.
takes you somewhere. Like if you're listening to this and you're not in the right headspace, tell somebody. And if you can't do that, write it down on a piece of paper and burn the piece of paper, or like record a solo pod. I do when I do these solo podcasts, I joke. I'm like, this is my therapy session. I just like ramble. I'm like, if anybody's listening, great. If not, no big deal. But I think to decrease from the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S., I don't know if that still is a number, to decrease it, I think it's just speaking up and feeling okay to say something and like know that like we all go through our highs and our lows, and but you can get through it. Exactly.
It was either Mark Manson or this guy, I can't remember how to say his last name, Matt Hasig or something like that. Said something, I'm going to butcher the quote. Very much butchered.
I already butchered Mark, so it's all good.
It was something like, it's not about like, it's not about, it's like what you just said. It's not about, life isn't about not feeling sad. It's learning how to function with like the downs and the sads and all of that. That was horrible. It was so much more beautifully put. But it is inevitable that we're going to feel down. It is inevitable we're going to be sad. No one can ride on a high forever. So it's learning to do that, or to manage that, and to sit with the emotions and know that you don't have to just push them down. But honestly, like, we could talk for days about like this whole suicide thing. Like, it's everything. It's our work culture, you know, people that are saying like you have to work so much in your corporate job and like climb the corporate ladder, and like your mental health does not care. And if you take a day off, like that shows that you're weak. It's the conversations we're having with our friends about like, ooh, talking about deeper feelings is kind of awkward. It's the way that we like promote mental health and social media, exactly, comparison with being like, this person has this, I don't have this person's more beautiful than me, I'm ugly, or even online bullying. It's so systemic in so many different aspects. It's wild. But what is number one is that you just have to take care of yourself, take care of your needs over everything else. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to feel things. And also don't be afraid to look for resources. Again, with butchering quotes, here we go. There is a quote by the famous author, novelist, James Baldwin, that is, your pain is not unique. Your pain is unread. And the quote is much longer than that. I'm just going to paraphrase. Essentially, like, we feel so alone. And so that's how I felt with my eating disorder. I felt so alone. I was like, these things that I'm experiencing, like, oh my God, I am such a broken human being. Like, why am I feeling this? But then once I started to do recovery and I went to rehab for a little bit for it, and like met other girls that were struggling with the same thing, I realized, I was like, whoa, I am far from alone. I am far from like this broken, sad, in the dark, secret thing. Other people are experiencing what I'm experiencing. And not only that, but other people are experiencing and have healed from that and are talking about what they've healed from.
Yeah.
So I think it's also like, look for the resources, read the books, you know. There's just so much content out there and so much vulnerability out there nowadays that you don't have to feel so alone.
Yeah. And I think understanding too, it takes time.
Yeah, that's true too.
A little bit of progress.
Yeah.
Read the books, listen to the podcast, understand, like, hearing people like you, like, this is 3 years in the making, and how much more it seems like you've come out of that tunnel. And I'm sure on the back end, there's still some things that maybe you have to deal with once in a while, but it just takes time.
Right.
But you can get through it, and I think there's beauty in coming out of dark times in life, not depression or suicide. I'm not saying specifically you need to go through that to appreciate it, but there is beauty in going through tough times that it makes you appreciate so much more. Like, I appreciate living in this house in Venice now so much more because I started in the Valley. I fucking drove over 19,000 times. Like, I wouldn't appreciate and have the gratitude that I have on a daily basis now if I didn't go through those not calling them tough times, not comparing it to depression or suicide. Yeah, but what is relative to what I've had to do to get me to where I am today, I now appreciate it more. So I think through those dark times, you come out with such a clearer lens for life, and it's so much more beautiful. You're no longer just seeing a tree as a tree. You're seeing like this beautiful green and brown, and you see the beautiful sun and the ocean. Like, I think you wake up even more with time of going through some of these dark times.
Yeah, I think anyone would agree that someone who's can say that they've gone through these like struggles or dark times and have come out the other end will say, I am a totally different person than I was before, even before any of it started, you know. I see the world differently. I think of the world differently. I think of myself differently. And I always say this, like, once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. And it's true. Like, once you've been through that and you've seen life and from a different perspective and gone through the hard stuff and done the work of getting to a place where you're okay again, or at least can function, like, you just see things so differently and you're an entire different version of yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this podcast, I always love the guests to put a challenge out to the listeners. So if they made it this far in the podcast, what's one challenge that you have for the listeners today?
Okay. I'm going to take it back to the dating and relationship stuff. Reflect on how your dating life and your relationships have gone so far. What has made you happy? What has made you sad? What have you not liked? Where have you felt uncomfortable in interactions with people? What do you wish you had in your dating life? Like, reflect so you can then create boundaries and create kind of like a deal breaker type of list, not preferences. Deal breakers, big difference. And have more intention in your dating life. If you're about a serious relationship, if a serious relationship is what you want, reflect on how things have gone so far, take inventory, make a list. And that can help you with figuring out like the dating patterns you have that are holding you back, your boundaries, everything. Yeah.
Love that. Where can people get the book? So this will come out February 15th. It's probably still, at this time when it comes out, it's still available for pre-order.
Right.
Where can people get the book?
So the book is on my publisher's website, which is Thought Catalog. But you can find that through the link on my Instagram, which is Words with Kirstie. You can find that on the link on my TikTok, which is Kirstie Taylor, but with 2 R's at the end. I know, very confusing. My website, KirstieTaylor.com, all of those link to my book.
Cool. I'll have all that listed in the bio. So if you guys and gals want to go support and cop that book, I know it'll be greatly appreciated, and I will be purchasing it as well. So,
and if your listeners want to, they can, if they purchase the book and want to DM me, I can give them a free boundaries guide that I created.
Ooh,
yeah,
very cool.
And my eternal love in a message back to you. But yeah, so if they shoot me a DM, I can email them that boundaries guide on like what boundaries are and how to create boundaries and everything.
That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this podcast, please screenshot this episode, post it to your IG story, tag Kirstie. It's Words with Kirstie at IG, right?
Yep.
Words with Kirstie, and that's spelled Kirstie. And if you have access to your phone, you'll see it in the description of the bio. But screenshot this episode, post it to your story, and let us know what you learned or what was the biggest takeaway from this podcast, because it's extremely important. And there was a lot of dating advice dropped on this podcast today. But thank you so much for taking the time today. This was incredible.
Yeah.
So excited for this book to come out for you. And honestly, just purely excited with how much it seems like there's been so much growth since we jumped on the podcast in 2019.
It's wild.
So this is incredible. And I think you brought so much value to this podcast, because I haven't had anybody that really is in the dating world. And you better believe when I'm re-listening to this podcast to edit it, I'm going to be sitting there taking notes like, all right, Bearded Man, we gotta critique your dating life. You're about to go back in the game. 2021 is going to be your year.
That's amazing.
But this was such a good podcast, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. This has been fun. And honestly, it is pretty wild to think like how far we've both come since like the last time we were doing this.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. And you don't have to say it, but hopefully this is the #1 podcast that she's been on. I know she's been on. She's been on 15, but she's gonna keep it as a secret. Thank you guys and gals for tuning in. We will catch you here soon enough. It's your favorite beer man, Bob. See ya.